button in the bottom left. Am I
Oh
frozen?
yeah.
Am I frozen?
You actually aren't. Like you're good.
Am I?
Oh
Wait.
shit, it's sold. It's sold. It's sold. It's I said you're good and it instantly sold. That's
I
so
hate.
wrong, bro.
I
That
hate.
is so wrong.
I hate
Hey
this.
yo, it's a it's a podcast staple at this point. That's sick, bro. That's actually really fucked up.
Welcome, beautiful people of all ages, shapes, and colors, to another episode of the Hit Your Free Throws podcast, where we encourage you to stick to the basics. I'm one of your co-hosts, TV, aka TV on basketball, alongside my co-host Jay, aka the Knockdown Jay. How's it going, my guy?
It's going good, man. Quiet week in the NBA, low key. I mean, if you're not talking about scoring tons of points, right? That's the topic of the week so far. Is everybody putting up astronomical numbers? But other than that, trade deadline is next week, and we have heard not much of a peep across the league. TV, that either means we're in for a pretty crazy trade deadline the day of, or we might not have as eventful of a next week as we were hoping for. Hopefully, it's the former rather than the latter. I'm looking forward to some big trades.
100%. There's still a lot of big names on the trade market, and the rumors are heating up. But is anything going to be done? The NBA has tricked us before, man. The NBA has tricked us before.
True.
So we got to be ready for that. But yeah, it's going to be a fantastic episode today. We're going to talk about the All Star starters, our quick thoughts on that. And then, of course, we're making our NBA All Star Reserve picks. After that, we're going to be going through some news that's been going around the NBA, what we've been able to scrounge up, basically. And then we're going to be ending it off with the quiz and the draft, as always. So be on the lookout for that. But before we get to that, of course, we have to plug our socials. Follow at TV on basketball. Follow at the Knockdown J / routine jumper down below. Those links, that's where it can be found. In terms of Hit Your Free Throws Pod, for the best daily NBA content, check out the TikTok and Instagram. You've seen some of the vlogs that I've put up over there, the other content that we got going on, and of course the clips will be up too, so you can find them all on those pages. If you're on YouTube, remember to like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. That would be highly appreciated if you want to watch us there. And if you're on any of the podcast networks, Spotify and Apple, leave a review, subscribe. We appreciate all of you guys as well. Jay, are you ready to get into this?
I'm ready, man. I'm pretty sure the reserves are going to be named later on in the day after this episode gets dropped, right?
Released.
So
Yes.
with that being the case, bro, let's see if we know Stradamus. Let's see what we can do.
Funnily enough, I actually was looking back at our old TikToks. We did this as a TikTok last year, as like our also reserve. So now we're gonna be able to get into the meat and potatoes of all of this here on the pod. So
Mhm.
let's get into this. Firstly, we have to name the starters. We're gonna start off on the east side, and then we're gonna name our east reserves, and then we're gonna talk about the west after. But in terms of the Eastern Conference All Star starters, we had Damian Lillard just edging out Jalen Brunson. By the way, just edging out because of the fan vote. Tyrese Halliburton, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Jason Tatum, and Joel Embiid. Jay, quick thoughts. They got this right, or did you think that they should have been like one change?
I'm not
Personally,
mad at it. I mean, everybody's gonna look at Dame, right? Dame's gonna be
yeah,
the one. It's gonna be between Dame, Jalen Brunson, probably Donovan Mitchell, right? Especially with the
yeah,
way the Cleveland Cavaliers have been playing. You look at Jalen Brunson right now. A lot of people are gonna talk about how the Knicks have been since acquiring OG Anunoby. Well, Jalen Brunson's been a dog the entire season. So obviously, those are the three guys in the running. It's take your pick. You can make an argument that maybe Damian Lillard statistically is kind of just like performing a tick above those guys. But I mean, it's a toss up, man. All three guys are going to make the game, right? We'll talk about
yeah.
our list a little bit later, but all three guys are going to make the game. So I don't have too many gripes with this one.
Yeah, I think it's pretty solid. I'm surprised that this is the first time Dame has ever started an All Star game with the amount of popularity that
Hmm.
he's had around the league. But we also have to remember, like 5 6 years ago, this guy was like the perennial All Star snub of like
Yeah.
every single year. He had that label. It was like now it's more like Devin Booker as of like recent years, but
Hmm.
Damian Lillard was like that guy who like every single year everyone's like he has to make the All Star team. He has to, and he just gets snubbed and ends up being an injury replacement like eventually. So
Hey.
finally got to his first start, which is great. But let's be honest. At the end of the day, no one cares who starts and who comes off the bench. It just says All Star
Dude.
beside your name.
I mean, is that? I mean, it's that, right? And well, even when we go look at your discography, so to speak, right at the end of
Yeah,
your career, we don't differentiate how many All Star games you made compared to how many All Star games you started, right? That's one of the
yeah,
bigger things. But the other thing is, shout out to Dame Lillard because he's living a life outside the West. You know what I mean? It's one of those things. It's always been a dogfight in the Western Conference for a spot, especially at the guard position. The Eastern Conference let up a little bit on him, and like you said, finally being able to achieve that feat, it's a real, like you said, that was a really surprising stat when I found out as well. But like I said, life in the East, man, it helps out a lot when the competition is a little lighter. I mean, this year is really parity.
I was gonna say this is really tough. No, this year was tough compared to other years in the East.
Yeah, this is a parity ridden. This is a parity ridden league for sure. But we got to be honest. Of the two sides, the Eastern Conference, it's still got its holes where you could still, slither your way through. And that's no disrespect to Damian Lillard at all, but it definitely helped him in this conversation when we talk about the guys that he's going to have weight against. Because, I mean, shoot, we're going to talk about the West starters in a second. And, I mean, boy, oh, boy.
Yeah. But, yeah. Let's go into the East. Let's get into the East reserves. We talked about the East starters, and the way we're gonna do this is we're gonna start by going to the 2 guards, the 3 forwards, then the 2 wild cards. That's how it is on their ballot. That's how we're gonna do our ballot as well. So we're gonna start in the backcourt. I'm gonna have you start this one. Who do you have as your starting backcourt in the Eastern Conference reserves?
Starting backcourt in the Eastern Conference reserves got to be the 2 guys I mentioned beforehand, Jalen Brunson, Donovan Mitchell. I mean, these are the 2 guys that were competing with Damian Lillard to get that other starting spot next to Tyrese Halliburton. We said it when we did our original All-Star starter picks that Tyrese was a lock at that first guard position, and it was just a question of who the next person was going to be. If I'm not mistaken, I think I picked Tyrese Maxey. Yeah. And Marcus had picked Damian Lillard, so shout out to him for picking them. TV, who did you predict? Did you have Brunson?
I had Brunson.
Yeah. So, I mean, I probably was the furthest off, right, with Tyrese Maxey, who might still get mentioned in this list.
Yeah.
But in terms of the initial reserves at the backcourt, I got to go with Brunson and Mitchell. What Mitchell has been able to do in the stead without Darius Garland and Evan Mobley has been huge. It's completely redefined the Cleveland Cavaliers play style over the last couple of weeks. I mean, they're shooting threes out the wazoo. Jared Allen is handling the ball a little bit.
Sam Merrill is a GOAT.
On pace with Curry in terms of per 36 3-point shooting, like stuff that just like you shouldn't. Sam Merrill, right? We're talking about. Wasn't he like the 60th pick?
Right? Yeah, no, he was. Yeah, and he was with like the Bucks like his first year, 2 years of his career.
Yeah, we're talking about quote unquote Mr. Irrelevant being in the same conversation as Steph Curry from a 3-point shooting perspective.
Oh, trust me, I watched that game. I didn't watch it live, but I was watching that game like on TV between the Raptors and the Cavs. That man was like annoying the hell out of me. The amount of time this guy was shooting.
Like it's ridiculous the kind of like reinvention that they've been able to have over the last couple of weeks without those 2 guys in the lineup. It'll be interesting to see how they reintroduce those guys into the mix. But Donovan Mitchell has been able to thrive in this time frame. And Jalen Brunson, let's be honest, bro. Like, I'm not going to go off the limb with like what Kendrick Perkins said about putting him in the MVP conversation. You might be jumping off a cliff with that one, but that's KP in a nutshell for you, right?
Yeah.
But is he somebody that should be talked about as one of the top guards in the Eastern Conference? Man,
1,000,000%.
If your sentence doesn't start with he's top 5, top 10, I mean, honestly, if Jalen Brunson is not considered top 5 at the guard position in the Eastern Conference right now, you must not be watching the same basketball that I am.
He should be top 5 in discussion for like point guards in the league with the way he's playing right now.
Hey, man, I mean, let's be honest. There's going to be a couple of guards we talk about throughout this entire episode that might either just barely make the list or just barely miss the list. And guys like Brunson in the overall pecking order, this is more of like an off-season episode, but it'll be interesting to see where we feel guys rank at their given positions by the end of this year. Because, for example, the PG spot, after this year, bro, ranking PGs is going to be rough because my boy Curry has been killing, but let's be real though, man. His ability to carry the Golden State Warriors, it's not what it used to be. So that brings guys like Brunson, like Mitchell's not a point guard, but like Brunson, De'Aaron Fox, where does John Morant with the fact that we've barely seen him this season, like rank. If that's an interesting off-season pod. We'll get to that at a later date. But Brunson, he's putting himself in a real ilk right now where like when we get to talking about ranking point guards in the offseason, man, I ain't gonna lie, bro. If we get down to like 10 and his name hasn't come up, it's a lot of disrespect coming our way, TV. I ain't gonna hold you.
100%, man. And look, I have the exact same backcourt as you in the Eastern Conference to start off with Donovan Mitchell and Jalen Brunson. Brunson's getting a lot of love right now, and fair enough, he's in New York. He's just having a phenomenal season in general. And even with Julius Randle being out the last couple of games because, his injury that's been going on, that he's going to miss a few weeks because of that, he's just continuing to do exactly what he does. And the numbers are ridiculous this year. We thought last year was good. This guy, he's getting even better, and he was already considered an All-Star snub last year. So this year, he's leaving no doubt in our mind that he's an absolute NBA All-Star. And Donovan Mitchell, man, you know that the Cavs are like 14-4 in the 6 weeks that they were missing Evan Mobley and Darius Garland. That's how much this new system is working. And of course, Donovan Mitchell is right at the center of all that. Look, we talked about a few weeks ago, should the Cavs trade Donovan Mitchell? Maybe. I was like, maybe it might be time. But at this point, look, it's working. You need him as the focal point of your offense. You do what you can to keep him around. So it's like he's been playing absolutely great this season, and he deserves to be an All-Star 100%. Moving on to the forwards, though. We might have a little bit different from here, but we'll have to wait and see. My first forward, I'm going to start off with this one. My first forward, Bam Adebayo. The absolute, we talked about Jimmy Butler as being kind of the most important player on the team. Bam Adebayo, the way he's playing this year on both ends of the floor is absolutely elite. We always have complaints about him when it comes to playoff time, but so far this season, he's been playing almost every game. He's played 37 games so far this year, but in 21 points a game, 10 rebounds, 4 assists, and probably having a top 3, top 5 defensive player of the year candidate. Just an easy choice there. The best player in the Heat, clearly, and I don't know how this team operates without him. He just does so much for them on both ends that this guy, he deserves a lot of love. Next forward I have on my list, Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown, beside Jason Tatum, another fantastic season. And I feel like both, especially, I think just because we look at the Boston Celtics team as just a great team overall, that we kind of don't talk about Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum as much anymore as individually great talents. But they're having he's having another fantastic year, almost 50% from the field, 35% from 3. And he's honestly, compared to previous years, improved really, gave a lot more effort on the defensive end, which is what they need as a whole, and he's been able to provide that for them. I think he deserves to be in All-Star conversations. I have him there as well. But Jay, my last forward position, I know he's injured, but the way he's been able to carry himself, especially through a rough start, deserves some love. And it wouldn't be a Hit Your Free Throws podcast without talking about him. But Julius Randle's an All-Star. Julius Randle's an All-Star. As much as we like to dunk on him and all that, he's been having an All-Star level season. Now, we're going to have to make a small discussion because he's going to be replaced as an All-Star probably because of the shoulder separation injury he has. We'll probably maybe talk about it in the wild card section. That's who we think to be the injury replacement. But he still should be named just because it helps. It should be included on his resume because of how great of a season he's played so far. But 24 points a game, 9 rebounds, 5 assists. Especially after that super slow start, it probably would have been even a lot higher. But he's just a fantastic basketball player, and for people who thought, you know what, it's the every other year Julius Randle syndrome. He's proving everyone wrong. Sucks that he got injured. Hopefully he gets back soon, but he is playing at an All-Star level, so he deserves to be here. So those are my 3 fun court guys.
I mean, we're pretty much lockstep in terms of where we're at. I think the only part where me and you differ is Julius Randle would have been more of a wild card for me, which actually puts him a lot closer to that, injury reserve replacement in terms of somebody taking his spot. The guy that I actually had in his stead is Paolo Banchero. Paolo Banchero has just been really, really good this year, and he's been a model of consistency. We have to remember that the Orlando Magic have had a lot of injuries across the board. They've still been missing significant time from the point guard position. Wendell Carter has missed time. Franz Wagner has missed mad time. And shout out to the emergence of the Mo Wagner, Goga Batazde duo. We shouted them out on the podcast a couple of weeks ago. But I mean, aside from that, what he is doing from a consistency standpoint is just ridiculous. And he's in a really interesting ilk right now. I'm going to read a little passage that I found on Basketball News. It says Paolo Banchero is one of only 3 players with the same numbers this season while shooting 38% from 3, with the other 2 being all-star starters LeBron James and Luka Doncic. It's not too many times that you get brought up in that kind of conversation where you're putting up 23 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists, barely missed any time, if not missed any get time at all, and shooting relatively well from beyond the arc. Granted, I know the volume's not insane, but he's shooting the
Yeah.
ball at a good clip from beyond the arc while pretty much doing a lot of the alpha dominant things that we saw from his rookie season. So the fact that I know a lot of people are going to look at the slow slide of the Orlando Magic, or maybe even look at the heavy bias of me in the
Yeah.
preseason with the Orlando Magic and
Mhm.
say, well, like maybe Paolo Banchero shouldn't necessarily be like one of the first guys we think of. But I think from an individual performance standpoint, like he has definitely been an all-star this season in the Eastern Conference. And has he necessarily been better than Julius Randle? No, but I think that this Julius Randle aspect raises him and knocks Julius Randle down a peg, obviously because he's probably not going to be able to participate.
Well, I think like what's gonna end up happening is like even if like Julius Randle's injury, I don't think they're gonna like even in my scenario, I don't think he's gonna be replaced with another forward because Powell's already there anyway. So it's just gonna be kind of free reign who replaces Julius. But funnily enough, if we go into our wild cards already, I have Powell as one of my wild card all-star players as well. And for basically all the reasons you said, the Magic have been absolutely great this year. Yes, they've been on a slide. They're like kind of dipping towards 500 now, and during this recent kind of struggle. But he's been absolutely fantastic for a team that doesn't have many offensive creators. He's really doing his best, and he's still like doing it not like maybe efficient, but he's doing it efficiently from the wing position. The 3-point shooting has gone up. The field goal percentage has gone up. He's just becoming a lot more aggressive and becoming more of an all-around player, which is the type of development you want to see for someone going from his rookie to sophomore year. We talk about it every year in the preseason. Some people are going to hit that sophomore slump. We've seen it with Scotty Barnes. We've seen it with some other players who won Rookie of the Year. But Paolo Banchero has taken that momentum he had last year and is continuing to grow. And the Magic are kind of ahead of schedule as many people compared to what people had as expectations for them before the season. So with the way they're playing right now, especially with the surprise factor and the way that Paolo has been playing, he's one of my wild cards there. So I have both of them. I still have both Julius and Paolo there as well. So I don't know if you had Julius as your other reserve or as your other wild card spot, but who would be your two final wild card spots if you haven't said them already?
So Julius Randle wasn't the wild card spot, and obviously the other guy for me is Tyrese Maxey, who initially was like a guy that I selected to be a starter. Now, when everything kind of shook down, obviously that's where things got a little different because Jalen Brunson and Donovan Mitchell have performed in a very crazy way in the meantime since us selecting those starters. Not that they weren't already performing at an all-star caliber level beforehand, but things have just significantly changed over the last couple of weeks. Tyrese Maxey, I think, definitely deserves to make the all-star team, though. He's my first wild card. Julius Randle is the other wild card. Let me throw this out there, though. As the injury replacement, there's two guys that are intriguing to me for Julius Randle. The first being Derek White. Right. That's like the first one that's kind of interesting because of the buzz that he's been getting and the fact that I don't necessarily know if it's necessary for the Boston Celtics to get 3 all-stars on the team, right? But it is something to consider when you think about his impact on this team this year. And the other guy is Jared Allen. Can we talk about the fact that Jared Allen is like not low-key. He is having a better statistical season and overall performing on a much like more impressive level than even the year that he actually made the All-Star game.
Yeah, I think he's better. He's been better this year than he was as All-Star season for sure.
Yeah, like I think if you had to think of like it would suck for him to get in this way, but if Julius Randle is unable to play, which it sounds like that he's obviously on trajectory to miss the All-Star game, the two guys that I automatically think of from the forward position, Kristaps Porzingis kind of like slowly sneaks into this too, but I think the two main guys that come to mind to me are Derek White and Jared Allen. And of the two, I think I would maybe actually go more Jared Allen.
Interesting.
But I do think for sure that if we're just going strictly off of like who deserves to make it, Julius Randle is my other wild card next to Tyrese Maxey.
Interesting. So yeah, like I mentioned, Paolo Banchero was one of my wild cards. I talked about him already. But you didn't even mention this guy, and I believe that not enough players are giving this man love because I think he 100% should be an all-star. Trae Young.
I knew it. I figured.
Trae Young. Yeah, I'm gonna go Trae Young. I mean, 27 and 11, leading the league in assists, and he is leading like this Atlanta Hawks team. Yes, they have been mid for sure, but I don't think that's at fault of Trae Young. Trae Young is like taking like whatever struggles he had last year, improving on them, and putting together a near All NBA campaign for himself this year.
Mm.
Like his ability to get others involved, and as of late, that combo between him and DeJounte Murray are finally starting to click. Maybe at the time where they're like, okay, maybe it's time to ship out DeJounte Murray, but Trae Young is still the focal point of this team, and he's reminding people this year, hey, you had me in those top 5 discussions, like top 5 point guard discussions a few years ago. I'm still that guy, and he's been proving that time and time again this year. It was tough between him and Maxey for this final wildcard spot. By the way, my replacement for Julius Randle would be Tyrese Maxey,
Mm.
um, for that position, but I think that Trae Young, if we're going for straight 7, it's so hard to leave off Tyrese Maxey, I know, but I'm gonna have to put Trae Young over him in this aspect, just because I think that Tyrese Maxey, I mean, he did just burst onto the scene and everything, but Trae Young has the how would I like to say it? He has like the years on him. You know what I mean? Like
We
how some
know he's a commodity. Like we understand. Yeah, proven commodity.
a
Yeah, like
proven commodity in this league.
yeah,
That's what I mean. So like Trae Young gets get more. I know like not a lot of players like vote him as well. I don't think a lot of players like Trae Young, but I think like the team like coaches who end up voting for these benches know if there's one guy you need to really focus on in the Atlanta Hawks, it's Trae Young, and it's not
mm.
even close. So I think Trae Young does deserve to be here. I have Maxey as my replacement if Julius Randle is not available for the All Star game, but those two are my wild cards. I did want to talk about Derek White though, because hey, look, he's been great and stuff, but I don't think he should be near All-Star conversations.
I mean, look, this is my thing, TV. We had this conversation actually, like whether or not we should be taking this seriously or not earlier on in the season. We had the convo. I told you if we're being real, I don't think that Derek White should make the All-Star team. I do think there's a reality if like it came down to Trae Young or Derek White. I think coaches would probably go Derek White, but Trae Young finished like second in the Eastern Conference in terms of fan voting, if I'm not mistaken, or like amongst the guards. He was somewhere up there in terms of like the Eastern Conference guards from a voting perspective. So like I think that Trae Young should make it. This is the funny thing about the Trae Young argument. I think Trae Young should make it over Derek White, despite the fact that I think that Derek White's overall impact is more valuable right now.
Yeah.
But I think the thing that's making the Trae Young case even harder this year is who would have thought, and you kind of mentioned this beforehand, we were having conversations about whether or not Trae Young was considered top 5 in his position. And now we're sitting here having debates about whether or not Tyrese Maxey, who just kind of really bursted on the scene heavily this year, or Derek White, who is like the 4th best player from a talent perspective on the Boston Celtics. Those are the two guys that come up in conversation when comparing him to Trae Young. Like I think the hardest part with Trae Young right now is that the fall from grace is recognized through the conversations he's falling in.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think Tyrese Maxey is a top 5 guard in the NBA. I don't even believe Tyrese Maxey might necessarily be a top 5 guard in the East. But the fact that we're having a conversation where Trae Young has been kind of looped into a tier with those dudes, and there's no disrespect to those guys, but it goes to show you that he is slowly dipping into a completely different conversation, and it's making his overall case a lot more lackluster than it maybe should be for a guy that, like you said, is 26-10, has 30 plus point games where he has 10 double-digit assists as well. Like the fact that this guy's performed this well yet is in these kind of conversations, that's what makes his overall brand right now kind of like a hot potato, and nobody really kind of wants to hold on.
Yeah, 100%. It's tough because I feel like this with every year with Trae Young, he just doesn't get enough love and deserve just because of his own reputation. So he deserves to be an All-Star. I'll just keep it that plain and simple. He deserves to be an All-Star. I have him on this list as well. One last thing on the Derek White thing, he shouldn't even be the third guy taken from the Celtics. Kristaps Porzingis, I was really choosing between him and Jaylen Brown for that other position because low-key Porzingis, you could say that you can make the argument that he is the second best player on the Celtics. That's how impactful he's been, especially on the defensive end. That's how impactful he has been. So, yeah, those are our 7 wild cards, including our injury replacements. So let us know down below what you guys' thoughts on our Eastern Conference reserves. Let us know if there's anyone missing that we haven't talked about as well. Moving on to the West, we are going to be talking about the starters first quickly. And I think this is the one that a lot of people expected to happen. We have Luka and SGA in the backcourt. And in the front court, we have KD, LeBron James, and Nikola Jokic. Jay, any problems with the starting 5 they have?
Look, I said it beforehand when we picked our starters before, the guy who I thought was going to be the odd man out. And I'm saying based off if we're taking, history out of it, the odd man out to me should have been LeBron James. I think the most impactful player on the Los Angeles Lakers this year. And I understand what LeBron James has done as of late, right? He's really performed well over the last couple of weeks in particular. But I think the most impactful player on the Lakers this season has been Anthony Davis. I think that Anthony Davis deserved to be an all-star starter over LeBron James. But I also understand that the concept of LeBron James not starting in an all-star game sounds insane. The same way it's hilarious that for the first time in like 7 years or something like that, we might have to talk about Steph Curry as a reserve, right? Like these are the things that this season has brought to us where things are a little bit off kilter. LeBron James and Steph Curry coming off the bench for the West would definitely be odd, but I also think it would be realistic when you're talking about really rewarding the best players in the league. I'm not saying that LeBron James hasn't been one of the best players in the West. I just think that his teammate Anthony Davis for the Lakers has been the most impactful. And let's be real. First of all, if you really want to rewind things, most people will argue that the Los Angeles Lakers, with the record that they have, having 2 All-Stars is already controversial enough to a certain degree. I would say. But I would then double down by saying if we have to put LeBron James and Anthony Davis on the list, which I do agree with them being all-stars this year, again, I would have went with AD over LeBron. But other than that, I think everything was just about as lined up as you would expect, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, let's be honest. LeBron was not gonna not be in the starting lineup. Just too much respect, too much history. He was gonna make it in no matter what. Whether the media was involved, whether players were involved, they were gonna give him his praise. I have no problem with the starting 5. Honestly, I thought that Steph Curry was gonna fall in that same argument where the history, the player that like he has been his whole career, is gonna overpower the fact that SGA has been the better player this year. But SGA beat him out to it, which is a nice surprise. So. Yeah, I have no problem with the starting 5. These are the guys. I think this is basically the 5 I had on our episode before, so no problems with it whatsoever. Now moving on to the reserves, though. This is where, like we talked about, the East, there's maybe some weak links there. The West, oh boy, there's some guys that you're going to have to omit, and it's going to be really, really tough. Jam, I throw it over to you. The backcourt of the reserves. Who do you have?
So the backcourt for the reserves for me is Anthony Edwards and Steph Curry. Steph Curry, I felt like was definitely going to end up being in here. He's kind of the pulse of the Warriors this season. Like Clay, rough season so far. I mean, don't get me wrong. He's kind of caught fire a little bit as of late. Shout out to him and Jonathan Kuminga. They both have kind of gotten it together.
Yeah. Quick shout out to Kuminga. 7 straight 20-point games. He is
Kuminga clearly heard that either he clearly heard he was on the trade block, or they clearly realized that
request.
It was a request that was practically coming, but either he realized that the only way that he was going to legitimately get traded was by first making somebody want to come talk to the team about him, or clearly the team realized that he's a higher commodity than they understood, because he's been able to start the last 7 games and he has clearly made it worth their while in his time on the floor. So shout out to Jonathan Kuminga. But Anthony Edwards and Steph Curry, I definitely think are the 2 here. Anthony Edwards felt kind of a given in other seasons. Well, I don't know. SGA and Luka Doncic are just on another level this year. But Anthony Edwards had a real case to be an all-star starter, right? They're the best team in the Western Conference. He clearly is the driving engine for them offensively. He has a case. to even be a starter. So him not making the reserves would have been ridiculous. And then, like I said, Curry is basically the pulse of the Golden State Warriors this year. I mean, he always is, right? But this year in particular, like with Wiggs kind of falling off a little bit, worries about Jonathan Kuminga earlier in the season, Klay Thompson kind of being in Twilight Zone, Draymond, we've had too many episodes about you, so I'm not even going to give you any more airtime. Like, yeah. And then obviously there's a respect factor that I think does get included when it comes to Curry. But he's definitely played up to snuff to be an all-star. It's not like a Dwayne Wade, Dirk Nowitzki situation or anything crazy like that.
Well, the NBA awarded them that. That was different. The NBA just
I was going to say, it's not anything like egregious.
Yeah, 100%. But yeah, no, I have the exact same backcourt. Steph Curry, Anthony Edwards. Anthony Edwards, I mean, it's tough because as great as Anthony Edwards has been playing, like, Shea and Luka are like somehow on another level than that, which is like absolutely insane. And that just shows you like the freaking top tier talent they have in the West. We have freaking Steph Curry on the reserves for the first time in forever. That's like we've had Steph Curry as an All-Star reserve. So both these guys absolutely guaranteed locks to be in this All-Star game. And you read all the points there. Steph has been like the reason why the Warriors have only been competitive, and Anthony Edwards is like the best player on the best team in the league. So it's pretty much simple as that. Those are our two backcourt guys. Moving on to the forwards, I'll take over for this one for my three forwards. One of the guys that maybe could have been in contention for a starter, Kawhi Leonard.
Yeah,
I have him as like one of my forwards. Again, we talked about this like earlier. He's playing. He's actually playing this year, and he's playing at a super, super high level. We know what he's capable of. He's going to make this All-Star team 100%. His numbers have been absolutely ridiculous, especially over the last couple months where he's turning into Super Kawhi. And we already know that this version of Kawhi can even go higher in the playoffs, which is absolutely scary. But yeah, Kawhi has been fantastic this year. He's going to make my team. I'm going to go with Anthony Davis, most important player on the Lakers. He's playing a lot more games than he usually has at this point in the year. And it's going to be a top two defensive player of the year candidate. We talked about how Rudy Gobert is probably going to win it, but Anthony Davis is right up there. And then his offensive numbers to pair up with it are just absolutely as elite as well. He still really can't shoot the three ball that well. It's up to like 31% than what has been in previous years, but still 25 points per game, 12 rebounds, 4 assists. Just your regular Anthony Davis numbers that should be ridiculous, but because it's Anthony Davis, you just think it's pedestrian. He's probably at this point the Lakers. I wouldn't say their best player. I mean, it's really a toss between him and LeBron, but both are playing at such a high level. But his play on the court is just extremely important. He deserves to be on this list. And then my final forward. This one was so hard. This final forward position, especially with the amount of great players that were here, I'm gonna go. I don't know if this is going off the board or not, but give me Domantas Sabonis. Domantas Sabonis has had a low-key, like, incredible year. 20 points per game, 13 rebounds, leading the league in rebounding, and 8 assists per game. We talk about Jokic being, like, the best passing big man. Freaking Sabonis is, like, near there. He's just, like, a small tier below. I think he's breaking away from, like, Bam Adebayo and all those other big men who are good at passing. He's, like, in tier 2 all by himself. He is an elite passer, 44% from 3. Sure, it's not on like a crazy amount of attempts per game, but he has just been like the best in my opinion. Even though De'Aaron Fox potentially has the better stats, his like play on the floor, especially as like a lot of times like they're lone big men in there, he has been holding his own, like kind of going 1-on-1 with some of the best bigs in the West, and the numbers back it up. Like this true shooting percentage is like at 65% as well. Like he's hitting like a ridiculous amount of shots, and he's been there every single game for the Kings this year. As my final forward position, if we had to have a representative from the Kings, I'm going to go with Sabonis.
I mean, that's a good one. I mean, for the most part, we're on the same page. I had Kawhi Leonard and Anthony Davis. They were givens because I thought Kawhi Leonard and Anthony Davis easily could have been in the conversation, if not were in the conversation to be starters. So those two were easily elevated for me. The third guy I went with was actually Paul George. And Domantas Sabonis is going to come up. Like, he's actually one of my first reserves. So It's not like I left him off. He's actually one of the guys that when I was going down the list of wild cards, and the West wild cards is ridiculous, bro. Like, it's
Yeah,
actually kind of wild.
it's
But
insane.
DeMontis Sabonis made that cut. Paul George, for me though, the efficiency, especially from three ball this year, is ridiculous. You mentioned it beforehand. The Clippers are in a different mode when their guys are playing, right? Like, they've been on a tear the last couple of seasons. Handed it to the Celtics recently, by the way. Like,
Yeah,
which was notable as well when you think about like the Celtics being one of the best defensive teams in the league, and the Clippers just having the offensive firepower to really keep up and hold them in check. So those guys at the Clippers, man, they're playing at a different level right now. Clearly, they look like one of the better teams in the Western Conference. And I'm not gonna hold you, bro. Like, I feel really good about Denver, but I mean, the West is not gonna be some kind of. I mean, I don't think we ever assumed it to be a cakewalk, but like, I think there's actually more of a toss-up conversation when it comes to the idea of like who's coming out the West this year. I don't think it's just a gimme that just because Nikola Jokic is still considered like the best player in the NBA to us, that the Nuggets are just gonna, come out of the West because the depth is still there and Jokic is still an MVP candidate. Nah, I don't think it's that sweet, bro. It's a lot of teams in the West that are like getting their ish together, and I think it's gonna make that road a lot tougher. The Clippers clicking is a big contributor to that because they've kind of been quietly out of the mix for a season or two because of these injury concerns. This is the version of the Clippers we've been waiting on for a long time. So these two guys had to be on the team for me.
yeah. Oh no, 100%. Paul George was probably going to be one of my wild cards too, so I didn't leave him off my list as well.
Mm,
But he's just having like an incredibly efficient season, and he's playing like over half the season, so like over 42 games so far this season, which is absolutely great for him. And this we knew this. As long as the Clippers are healthy, they're going to be one of the best teams in the West. They've become like one of the best, like one of the NBA's what if teams because we like when are they going to be healthy? Are they going to be healthy for the playoffs? And that's still going to be a question. We're only halfway through the season. That's still
mm.
going to be a question when we get to the postseason. But they're playing right now. And the guys that are playing, they're playing to their capabilities. So when it comes to Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, they 100% to play defend to be in this All Star team because they are All Star All NBA level players and they are playing like that for the Clippers this season and they're doing it in the regular season. So they 100% deserve to be there. I do like your three over there. Um, who you said you had the Sabonis as one of your wild cards. Who did you have your second one?
The second wild card, deep cut, Devin Booker, though. Got to put him up there. I mean, when he's been on the floor, he's been insane. Like, I mean, let's be honest. Like, I know that it was a like rough little situation in the beginning of the season for the Phoenix Suns where it seemed like the big three could just not stay on the floor. But when Devin Booker has been on the floor, it's been ridiculous at this point. It's a deep cut. If we're being honest, when you really look at the guys that are in conversation, De'Aaron Fox, Alperen Sengun, Karl Anthony Towns, you mentioned it beforehand with Rudy Gobert potentially being DPOY but not an All-Star. That's a tough conversation to have, right? But
Yeah.
Devin Booker, man, I mean, he's just like he definitely has to be in this conversation. And I hate to play this card, but TV, there is an aspect of this is the All-Star game,
Mhm.
right? So to an extent, the idea of an Alperen Sengun and definitely to a lesser degree, a Rudy Gobert making it into the All-Star game, right,
Yeah.
over a Devin Booker also does hurt in this conversation to an extent. You hate to hold that against them because that's not what the All-Star game is about. But
Yeah.
when you match the productivity also with the environment, yeah, Devin Booker definitely is a good person to have in this conversation. He mainly made the wild card because of games played, if we're being honest. Because if games played wasn't a conversation,
And
I
record,
think,
honestly, and
well,
record
yeah,
because yeah.
record is, I think record as well. But if games played and the record wasn't necessarily conversation, it was about productivity, we really could even make an argument that Devin Booker had a more deserving argument than Steph Curry, which is pretty nuts to say out loud, but might actually be the truth.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree, and he could even be the case if you take out record, if you take out the games that he's missed so far, even probably above Anthony Edwards, to be completely honest.
Mm-hmm.
So, but the thing is, it gets a wild card. The Suns are the 6th seed right now. Yes, they're finally picking back up. Who knew that once you got all your big three healthy, that they're gonna finally start to put things together? But Devin Booker, my only worry about him like early, and this is like why we didn't really like mention him that much early in the season is he gonna play enough games to make it to the All-Star game?
Yeah.
He's at 38. He's gonna make it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, he is my final wild card spot too. I just think that as him as a player and the way that he's like conducting this the Suns as basically their starting point guard is like you just can't deny it's undeniable how great he has been this year. And you can like there's so many guys in that conversation as well. You talked about Karl Anthony Towns, Gobert. Lauri Markkanen deserves to be in this conversation as well.
I'm
100
glad you brought him up.
1,000,000%. Kyrie Irving, if he didn't miss so many games, he probably should have been in this conversation as well. But Devin Booker has got his games up. His numbers are ridiculous, 28, 7, and 5 or whatever it is. Those numbers are all-star worthy numbers, and I think that he deserves to be in my final wildcard spot too. So I have him and PG as my wild cards.
I mean, I think we're pretty lockstep. I mean, I don't know where a lot of people stand on Domantas Sabonis this season in terms of his all-star case, but I feel like it's – I mean, this guy could have started. Like
he's been insane.
Yeah, I mean, insane. I know we're not going to talk – I know we're not really going to want to talk about the Kings. Like, not we, because I think we're a lot higher on the Kings than maybe most people. But, like, on a casual fan basis – I don't think that the Kings representation is something outside of Kings fandom is going to really stress anybody about representation. But I feel like to do this reserves list and not have either Domantas Sabonis or De'Aaron Fox on this list is kind of like egregious. And I think if you had to pick between the two, I think that Domantas Sabonis is the most deserving.
Yes.
When you just look at what he is doing. Like, I love De'Aaron, and I've mentioned this beforehand. But the trade for Domantas Sabonis has unlocked this offense in a way that it just was never going to run with De'Aaron Fox at the helm only, right? Yeah. Like his ability to pass, like Domantas Sabonis' ability to pass, his ability to rebound at a really high rate on both the offensive and defensive glass, they just create a lot more for the Kings. That's part of why they were one of the best offenses in the league last year. Like one of the best offenses in NBA history last year, right?
Yeah.
And they're not, I mean, they've fallen from grace a bit this season from an offensive production standpoint in terms of like the historical numbers, but they're still one of the better offenses in the NBA, and it has a lot to do with like what they do with Domantas Sabonis. That's no shot at De'Aaron, but it just shows that like his impact on the way this team runs, especially on that side of the ball, I mean, it's everything to their functionality.
Yeah, 100%. And it sucks with De'Aaron Fox, who's averaging like 27, 7, and 5, is not going to make the All-Star team. Like I mentioned too, shout out to Lauri Markkanen, shout out Karl Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert. There's so many guys here that you can make the argument for. Even to a certain extent, Wemby is playing like ridiculous.
That's a good one. That's another good one.
And like he could be in the mix. Alperen Şengün you mentioned as well. I think the hype of the Rockets going down has kind of hurt his chances at this as well. But there's just so many like just deep cuts like contenders in the West to make this All-Star team that it was hard to pick just a few guys. But I think we have the perfect 7 there. I think if we look at both of our lists, I think we both had the same guys. It's just like in weird orders.
Pretty much. But TV, this is what I want to ask you just to kind of cap off the reserves portion of the podcast. Because once we get to the news stuff, we're going to pretty much be breezing through the back end of this pod. So let me spice this up a little bit by asking this part to end out the reserves. For both the Eastern Conference and the Western Conference, if you had to choose one guy who you believed is your biggest deep cut, the biggest snub from your listing based on who made it for you in the East and the West, who do you think your biggest snub would be?
In the East, I mean, the thing is, it's hard because I have a feeling we did the East list having thinking that Julius Randle was gonna miss this thing, so we have our replacement already all set up. But if I had to go with an East, you could have my biggest snub. If I had to go with that, Jared Allen is up there. I will say that, but Scotty Barnes, Jared Allen and Scotty Barnes would be my 2. I know I might be playing Raptors homer, but Scotty Barnes, in terms of his all-around ability, being the point of attack defender for the Toronto Raptors, the playmaking going up, the scoring numbers going up, the 3-point percentage going up, everything, and just improving to a very high level for Scotty Barnes. He deserves to be within that mix, but I think he would be the snub probably alongside Jared Allen as well. So I would say those two would be my biggest snubs.
I think for the East, my two biggest snubs from my list would probably be Trae Young, especially after your
Yeah.
argument for him, especially when we're talking about comparing him to guys like Tyrese Maxey, Derek White, things of that nature. I think that Trae Young barely being off my list, that one definitely kind of hurt a little bit in terms of just like the fact that I believe in Trae Young a lot more than a lot of people these days in terms of where he falls in NBA discourse. And then the other guy is somebody that I did bring up, which is Jared Allen. Like, I think that Jared Allen is having like one of his best career years, and he might potentially miss the All-Star game, despite the fact that he's made an All-Star he's made an All-Star team for a lesser season than this. Now, that goes to show the magnitude of the Eastern Conference this year, especially at the big man spots. But at the same time, what he's been able to do, especially in the absence of Evan Mobley. Remember, there was a lot of trade conversation around, like, with Evan Mobley emerging as this DPOY level candidate. Like, do they even need Jared Allen? Does the fit with those two guys next to each other make sense? This and the third. Look, stretches like this is why Jared Allen, it needs to be with the Cleveland Cavaliers, right? This is one of those stretches where, like, this is why you don't just sleep on what Jared Allen's skill set is and can be when given more responsibility on both sides of the ball. I think he's really made the most of this stretch being like a real second option, which again sounds insane, bringing up the idea of Jared Allen as like a secondary offensive option along with what he does defensively, but like he's really embraced it. So Jared Allen and Trae Young would be my two.
Yeah, no, those two are really good. One quick guy before I quickly move on to the West, Kristaps Porzingis. He's actually, if anything, he should be my number one guy that I missed out on this list. Kristaps, just so close. It was gonna be between him or Jaylen Brown as the second Celtics representative, but you can make a clear case for Porzingis, and I wouldn't be mad at you. For the West, I guess my biggest snub would probably be De'Aaron Fox over there, and then probably Larry Markkinen, because even though, again, slow start, but he's finally picking it back up, and he's like, I think over like the last like 2 months, he's averaging like 50, 40, 90 and at like 25, 26 points per game. He's insane. He's been insane, and no one's really talking about it.
Yeah, I think for my two Western Conference snubs, the two that come to mind for me, definitely Lauri Markkinen. I'm glad his name came up on your side because, like you said, dude's been playing insane. He's looking towards an extension this offseason. Whoever trades for him, or if the Utah Jazz hold on to him, pay my boy that money.
OKC, you have 20 million draft picks. Please trade for Markkinen.
Hey man, I'm just saying, like OKC throwing out some picks there to make that happen. That could be a really interesting transaction because I mean, I do feel like they're one guy away from going ahead and making a run to the chip like this year. Like they really are one all-star talent away from like really putting the league on notice. This year they've kind of just shocked everybody, but I think with one more big move, and they've got the firepower, like you mentioned beforehand, to really go out and go make a splash, he would be an interesting guy for them. Shout out, like, TV low-key, shout out to Mikal Bridges in this conversation as well. I don't think the Brooklyn Nets will do it, but if anybody's got the scratch to try to make a run at Mikal, it would be the Thunder. I'm just saying.
Yes. 100%.
But that's neither here nor there. Lauri would be my first one, and I agree with you. De'Aaron Fox definitely would be the other one. Like, those are the two guys, to me, that come out. And the other guy that's, like, just on the fringe, like I said earlier, if Rudy Gobert is going to be a DPOY leading candidate and miss the All-Star game, it almost feels like something ain't lining up.
Yeah.
But, I mean, hey, that's the Western Conference for
That is the Western Conference for you. Well, let us know down below what you guys think for the East or the West reserves. Who did we miss out on anyone? I swear we listed like half the conference at this point. Yeah, but let us know down below if you agree, disagree. If you have some guys in there that we don't, let us know down below. Next up, we're gonna be talking about just some news going around the NBA. Talking about it, just basically presenting you with a headline, and we're gonna discuss as to like, is this news? Is it not? So we're going to go through all these topics. There's actually a lot of things regarding All-Star games and some, minimum games requirements. We're going to go into that really quickly. First one, Jay, news or nah, Damian Lillard is going to come back to defend his three-point contest. And even from earlier in the month, just to throw it in there, Mac McClung is also probably going to be defending his dunk contest crown. Is this news or nah?
This is news, bro. I got to keep it a bean, bro. Where's the competition at? This is the competitive spirit that the NBA needs to bring back. Mac McClung comes back to defend his dunk championship. Damian Lillard comes back. Same thing with the three-point crown, like you mentioned beforehand. Like, this is this is the competition within sports that we look forward to. Like, you just get to win your trophy and walk away. No, man.
Yeah.
If you are deemed one of the best 3-point shooters in the NBA by winning the 3-point contest, and granted, it's a sample size that not many can really
Yeah.
attest to, right? But
Yeah.
if you're gonna win the 3-point contest, if you're gonna win the dunk contest, you gotta come back and defend your spot. It's one of those things that I feel like really will bring a little bit more favor to these competitions, because
Yeah.
we get to see guys head hunting, right? If there's a new goalpost every single year, it kind of makes us care less and less. But if you're seeing
Yeah.
a guy have to kind of like play king of the hill, so to speak,
Yeah.
on a year-to-year
Basically, yeah.
basis, it brings a different competitive spirit to the overall All-Star weekend. I think that this idea of Dame coming back, and again, Mac McClung in his space with the dunk contest coming back to defend their crowns, I think it's great for All-Star weekend. It's one of those things that I feel like should be embraced more.
Yeah. I mean, they do this in soccer. They do this in like other competitions. If you win something, you have to go ahead and defend it. So those are the two. So both these guys coming back in this All-Star weekend to defend their crowns, absolutely necessary. I really wish Zach LaVine did this a few years ago. He went back to back, and he should have continued, but he walked away from it. We need guys defending the crown. Not only is their choice, but it should be a requirement for them to come back. Make it a rule, NBA. Make it a rule. 100%. But that is, in my opinion, yes, news. It's great to see just, a great Duncan McClung who had a fantastic performance last year, and Damian Lillard, one of the best 3-point shooters in the league. Defend your crown. See if you can go back to back. And it's going to be more satisfying for them as well. So, yes, I think that is news. Next news we're going to be talking about, Jamal Crawford talked about on, I think it was First Take this morning, at the day we're recording this, that he believes that awards like All NBA and MVP should not have like a minimum games requirement. And he was talking about how Joel Embiid's having an historic season. These injuries are probably going to make him not hit the 65 game threshold. This could be the same for Tyrese Halliburton as well, who's missing a lot of games. And he basically said that the 65 game limit is preventing these guys, like their injuries should not prevent them from from getting these awards and everything. So Jay, is this news or is it not?
This is news for sure, and it's because of the fact that it influences the financial aspect. We mentioned this before when we were talking off camera about Tyrese Halliburton. I think his is a little bit more notable because, yes, we understand that Joel Embiid is playing at an MVP level, but might miss out on the MVP because of something that has nothing to do with his actual performance on the floor and more so just his time on it. But Tyrese Halliburton is actually affected from a financial standpoint, and it's the long term of the extension that he recently signed. If he misses All NBA this year, and I believe he only has 3 games left to miss this entire rest of the season before he becomes ineligible to make the All NBA team. But if he misses the All NBA team, he's going to take a significant pay cut, not for like the upcoming season, but for the remainder, the entirety essentially of this extension that he just recently signed. This is the kind of financial influence that the All NBA selections have. And that's what makes showing up to work that much more impactful. And I hate that injuries is something that has any kind of real influence on this. But TV, we talked about this off pod, and I can't wait to hear you explain this to the listeners and the viewers, because I think your analysis on this was actually really spot on. But basically, you have to look at this from a real world work perspective, right? When they started, they being the players, and not every player was on this, but the all-star track of this load management movement that started a couple seasons back, it really forced the league to take a bird's eye view evaluation of how to create an environment where their all-star players are on the floor for significant games, whether it be TNT games, ESPN games, big time matchups in general, right? Being really important in terms of seeing your superstars on the floor on a consistent basis. And when the players moved the goalposts for what was important, desensitizing themselves from the regular season, it created an environment where something drastic had to happen. I believe that the 65 game threshold is a little much, but it is necessary, or I would say it was necessary, when you look at how out of control the circumstances became when it came to us seeing these all-stars play on a consistent basis. TV, you had a really good analogy when we were talking off camera about the real world aspect of showing up to work. Like I said, I can't wait because I thought this was like spot on.
Yeah, I mean, just think about it this way. You have a 40-hour work week. if you're like, you know, if you, I hate to use this because they use this like they use their picture in every single article, but Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, if you play a couple games here, don't want to play back to backs. It's like me going to work maybe 3 days a week, and then I'm tired. I'm not going to go there for the next few and make sure that I'm ready for the next work week, so I'm there at my best. Even though maybe at the beginning of the week you're doing really well, and then you start to trail off because of tiredness or whatever, and then you decide not to go off. But eventually, sure you have off days, but eventually those are going to run out, and this is going to affect your pay. This is going to affect your the way that the company looks at you. This is the same thing the NBA. These are the products on the floor that is like selling the NBA. Stephen A. said it, and as much as I don't want to agree with Stephen A., he's right. The generation before them, set them up to get these big sponsorship deals, these big TV deals. Michael Jordan played 9 seasons of 82 games. Karl Malone, John Stockton had like double digits in terms of how many seasons they played 82 games. We're seeing less and less of that, to the point where we have guys choosing, like looking at days in the calendar and saying, I'm not going to play this one. I'm not going to play this one. And the NBA, whether you believe it's a bit much or not, was a necessary step. And it's not like they're asking for, for you guys to play 70 games. It's not like they're going like over the top. They give you like a 17 game leeway. It's not like absolutely insane. Like I don't think it's like hard to ask, especially for the top stars in this league, which as consumers of the product, especially us as viewers, we want to see them on the court. People who go to the games are playing their hard-earned money to see these guys on the court. And I know that injuries do happen, but at the end of the day, they're not getting paid tens of hundreds of millions of dollars to sit on the bench and wear a suit. Are pandering this now, like you see like Joel Embiid asking the crowd to scream louder as like they're booing him. I mean, of course they're gonna boo him. They want to see like one of the top stars in the league go to work, and we're not able to see that. And again, it's completely different in the entertainment sphere, but this is like the standard that the NBA had to put in place in order for the product to be like more watchable, because this load management thing, like people have been saying throughout this entire week, has just gone out of hand.
Yeah, and I want to give TV his flowers real quick because I think he's a really good proponent of this. If you haven't been keeping up with the Hit Your Free Throws pod plug, by the way, TV's been flogging like a mother trucker this year. Yeah. He has been to a lot of games this year, and I gave him his props when we were talking off camera about the fact that I feel like he has a really good viewpoint on the consumer aspect of this, because this year he has been to a lot more games than he's been in the past. He's been pretty frequently. He's got some more lined up, so stay tuned for the vlogs, like I said before. Yeah. But like the consumer aspect of this is probably the most influential thing. And the thing that people don't necessarily want to down the line, it doesn't necessarily affect the product on the floor, but the TV money conversation is coming up, not this upcoming offseason, but the following offseason. That affects player salary. That affects things like overall team cap space. These are all things that are influential on the structure of the teams that we all enjoy. So there is a financial impact to all of this that starts with the players being on the floor and playing on a night-to-night basis. So yes, are there certain aspects of the threshold that definitely do hurt the product when you think about the idea of like, can we really tell an NBA season without what Joel Embiid has done or what Tyrese Halliburton has done when we talk about the All-NBA teams? No, we can't. That does feel egregious that we could get to the end of the year and those two guys are not on the All-NBA team. But at the same time, this is the product of circumstances that have been created due to things being drastically viewed in the opposite direction in terms of guys not being on the floor. So what happens when drastic things happen? You react with even more drastic responses, and that's unfortunately what's come here. But I mean, you got to tell the truth. If you look at the way this year's went, it is working. Anthony Davis hasn't missed much time. LeBron James hasn't missed much time. Look at the two guys in LA that are always the poster child for this stuff. Kawhi Leonard and Paul George haven't missed much time. If you look at the Western Conference in general, one of the hardest things about picking the All-Star Reserves, I'm sure TV can attest to this too, hardest part about picking the All-Star Reserves is outside of Devin Booker, it wasn't too many guys that we even discussed that have missed significant time. We brought up Kyrie Irving as a guy who could potentially have been on the team had he not missed significant time. He really wasn't out too bad either. I mean, he missed a good amount, but I mean, a few games less and like he would have had a real legitimate conversation in this. So, I mean, we do have to admit it's working despite or at least in some semblance, it is working despite the fact that we might not like all of the aspects that contribute to this having to be implemented.
Yeah, but look, it's even if it's a 65 game limit, I still think that's still like plenty of like whatever rest days or whatever that the NBA has. They just want to see the product on the court, and as fans of this, we can't help but at least applaud the NBA for trying to like give us the best product as much as possible. So yes, it sucks for Halliburton, it might suck for Embiid, but this is just what happens. If you're not on the court, they don't pay. Like I said, they don't pay to not be on the court. So that's what this is what the consequences are going to be. All right, moving on to the next news or not. The NBA has announced that there's going to be a one-on-one shooting competition as part of All-Star Weekend this year between Sabrina Ionescu, WNBA player from the New York Liberty, versus Stephen Curry. Now, if you just as a quick background, Steph Curry commented on I think one of the posts where Sabrina like broke the record for highest 3-point score in both WNBA and NBA, and he said we need to have some sort of shootout. There were rumblings about this for the next few months, and then it's finally announced this week that happened. Jay, is this news or not?
I don't care, TV. I'm not gonna lie. I love Sabrina. If anybody knows me on a personal level, the WNBA is like a guilty pleasure of mine in terms of what I love in terms of basketball. I watch women's college basketball, the WNBA, regular college basketball. Like I'm just a very big basketball fan, and so Sabrina is somebody that I've been a fan of for quite some time. I just don't know if I care about this that much. How about we do something even more drastic? You can have a one-on-one, but let's have Sabrina fry Damian Lillard and take the crown away. Let's see if that really puts the NBA 3-point contest on the map. Let's do that. Let's put it in a position where we could really put some pride on the line, right? Do you really want to lose your crown? Does the NBA want to lose their 3-point crown to a WNBA player? Let's really put some fire under it. I like the one-on-one aspect of it, but I've seen Kevin Hart and Draymond Green have one-on-one 3-point shooting contests. Like there's certain things where like the entertainment value is there, but if we're gonna bring her over, let's up the ante. Put her in the actual 3-point contest. I want to see where she stacks up. I think that she could really put some pressure on some of the best 3-point shooters in the league because I think she really can shoot.
Oh no,
the shit out the ball.
Yeah. I know when you said nah, I was kind of worried. I'm like, I think this is pretty big for the WNBA. But the fact you said, you know what, let's take it up to the next level. I'm like, I like that. I like that idea.
Yeah, I think it's only nah because I feel like this could go so much further if they really want to bring the WNBA to the front of the line. Yes, going up against Steph Curry is one thing, but we're talking about having Dame Lillard, Steph Curry, Sabrina Ionescu all in the same contest? Mm-hmm. I mean, okay, wait a minute. Now we've upped the ante. We've got 2-3 other we got 3-4 other of the top 3-point shooters in the league. If a WNBA superstar comes over here and steals the crown away, the NBA is going to have to look at this overall 3-point percentage and ask themselves, wait a minute. Are we sending our best 3-point shooters over here? Like it's gonna be a real, like I said, it's gonna let's get real here. There's also a certain test of masculinity that's gonna come out, so it's gonna make those guys really want to pull up. So it is just gonna be interesting because I think from a competitive standpoint, I think she's with the smoke and it goes deeper than Steph Curry. I think, but yes, the one-on-one is gonna be enjoyable. But I think that she's so good of a shooter, put her in the contest. I think it'll be dope.
Like that. I like that. I think it's just news anyway, just because this is great to have the WNBA like a part of this, like just in part of, and especially if going against the greatest shooter of all time, Steph Curry. It's eyes to the product, and if Sabrina could just show out nonetheless, I think it'd just be like nothing but positive for the league. So I think it's news, but I agree with you too. Up the ante, put in the actual 3-point contest, and actually put some pressure on the boys, man. I like that idea too. Last news topic: the NBA draft has now become a 2-day event. Yeah. We have round 1 happening one day at the Barclays Center, and then we have round 2 being the next day in one of the I think it's like one of the New York studios or whatever it is. Jay, is this news or not?
Bro, I don't care, bro. But let me put it this way, bro. Shout out to all my NBA draft nerds, bro. I listen to all of you guys' podcasts, or at least I try my best to, because I love the draft. It's one of my favorite aspects of the NBA on a season-to-season basis. Shout out to my NBA draft nerds, bro, because you guys finally get a breather. No more staying up till 1 a.m. doing quick blurs on the 58th overall pick, man. Like this really positions yourself to be able to get some good night rest after the first 30 picks. Shout out to you guys. But if we're being real about this, Are we calling this a 2-day spectacle? Is that what we're really viewing it as? Let's be honest. After about the 35th pick of the NBA draft, which is like the very tippity top of the second round, most of the casual audience, and that's if the casual audience makes it past the lottery, but
Yeah.
most of the casual audience is clipping by the end of the 35th pick. So we talking about giving the 31st through 60th pick its own day. Oh, brother. Oh, brother. Like I said, shout out to my NBA draft nerds. You get a little bit of a breather where you ain't got to write 60 write-ups in one night. Shout out to y'all for being able to get some extra Z's. But from an actual productivity standpoint, like what exactly are we doing here?
No one's watching day 2. Let's be honest. No one's watching day 2.
Come on, man.
Yeah, I think this is news just because like it's a big change. Like I mean, better for us fans too. I mean, I try to watch all of the NBA draft, but I hated staying up till 1 a.m. to see who Mr. Irrelevant is. So this is great. At least I get to like maybe watch. I can just have as like background to like me playing video games as I watch the second round of the NBA draft. But at least it's there. At least it's there. At least it's good for that aspect. Again, like more Z's for the rest of us, but at the same time, like, is this really necessary? Do we have to make it a second day? Do you really need ads and commercials that much that you need to have a second day of the NBA draft? I guess so. And now this is happening. But yeah, it's a 2-day thing, and I guess it's good for GMs now because they can actually there's more time to make trades and everything, I guess, between the 2 days. So good for them. But at the same time, a 2-day draft, the NBA, the NFL makes sense. There's 7 rounds there, and plus there's still some excitement around rounds 2 to 4 or whatever. But but in the NBA, no one cares about the second round. Absolutely no one does. So yeah, it's news, but it's also I'm not going to be paying attention to day 2 much at all. Let us know down below what you guys think. Any of these were these all legitimate news, or do you think that this is these are much of nothing? So let us know down below what you guys think. Now we're gonna move on to the next topic, and of course, it is time for the NBA for our Hit Your Free Throws draft. And today we are moving on to the 2004 NBA draft. We've been doing it every year since the year 2000. This is our 5th draft total, and now we're gonna be going for the 2004 NBA draft as our draft pool. Jay, looking at the list right now in front of you, how do you feel about this draft class?
Bro, it's not too many second round steals. We're gonna be very to the book. We'll see how many real pulls we have, but this is gonna definitely be a good game of if you know, because there's gonna be a couple of guys where when we draft them, you gotta just know the situation they were coming in and the type of player they were, because some of these dudes are gonna kind of go over your head initially, but when you really look back at the tape or you really think about what their impact was when they got into the league, there's a handful of really solid players here in the mix. But I ain't gonna lie, TV. We're gonna have to be real strategic because the talent gap is a little bonkers in 04.
Yes, 100%. And you know how these drafts go. Jay gets the first pick, I get the next 2, and we move through the rest serpentine style. So Jay, you get the first overall pick in this draft. Who are you gonna go with?
Man, stop playing with me, man. I'm going to go ahead and do my little mini campaign for the dog real quick. Shout out to my boy, the real NBA 75 select pick, man. He missed the list by I don't know how much. My man's is killing in Taiwan now, but I don't care. He got a lot of stuff going on. He's still an NBA Hall of Famer. Give me Dwight Howard. I'm going to go ahead and take him out the gate, starting at the center position, and put some respect on my boy. That dude is a Hall of Famer. That dude is a top 75 player of all time. And look, we gonna start off the 04 draft kicking out early.
I like that pick. Of course, that was going to be the obvious number 1 pick. Dwight Howard is off the board. I'm going to go with probably the easy number 2 here. Recently retired, but he's had a long storied NBA career. Whether you believe he's a Hall of Famer or not is really up to you. But I'm going to go with him for my first pick. Give me Andre Iguodala. Andre Iguodala is my next pick. He's basically gonna do almost everything for me. One of the best defenders in the perimeter, can handle the ball, can get to the rim. I'll have Andre Iguodala as my first pick, and then my next pick. There are 2 guys I was really interested in, but I want someone that could just put the ball in the bucket. This guy just can score it in unconventional ways. Yeah. But I'm gonna have him on my team because he was still one of the best 3-point shooters of his era. Give me 26 overall pick here, Kevin Martin over there. One of the
Wow. Shout out to Kevin. He got snagged way earlier than I expected. Sniper rifle on him too, though, boy. People kind of might remember that OKC stint, but that King space he was in,
King/Rockets.
yo.
Even on Rockets, the
Yeah,
time he was there,
Rockets Martin might arguably be the best one though.
yeah,
Actually, so you
yeah.
have a point there. Rockets Martin might actually be the best one. That huge. Shout out to him coming off the list a lot earlier. I told y'all, if y'all know that boy had a heater on
Yeah.
him. Um,
Yeah.
question to the peanut gallery, by the way. TV, you don't necessarily have to answer this though.
Yeah.
How much money do you think Kevin Martin would make in today's NBA with the kind of shooting that he brings to the table now? I'm just saying, Otto Porter got paid a lot of money from the Bulls. I'm just saying, but that's there. I'm just saying, a lot of guys are getting paid for 3-point shooting. Luke Kennard, Otto Porter. It's a lot of people that was getting paid for having a sniper
Well, but the
rifle
thing is, like, he
weapons.
wasn't just a shooter. At least with Kmart, he wasn't just a shooter. This guy could actually like be an all-around offensive threat. Like he can
True.
he can score on 3 different levels. So we'll see. I mean, like, yeah, he was a baller. He was a baller back in the day.
Yeah, man. Kmart, Monte Ellis. Those were the two guys that are like super underrated for me. I love those guys. A shout out to Kevin Martin for going off the board early. TV snagged him. He was definitely on my mind as a guy. So my two guys that I'm gonna go with to pair with Dwight Howard. The first one, got a Bulls homer, man.
Getting off the board,
Got a
yeah.
Bulls homer, man. It was gonna find a way. He was stealing from the Lakers for a long, long time. He just got off the payroll. Shout out to my boy Luol Deng. Come on, man.
Yes,
He's been off the
yeah.
payroll for about 2 seasons, but he's living at home, chilling, eating real good these days. I'm gonna put him at my 3. And the guy that I was hoping that you were talking about instead of Kevin Martin, the guy that I was hoping you were gonna talk about, but also a guy that I kind of view in a similar light, got that thing on him when he's really playing up to snuff. Man, I'm taking J.R. Smith right here.
I knew that's exactly what you're thinking. But I'll tell you right now, I'm taking peak Kmart over peak JR.
So here's the thing. I think I agree with you.
Yeah.
I think I agree with you, which is why I was hoping that JR was going to come off the list first. This is one of those things where, like, you being an NBA head, like, I got to, like, kind of play strategically around you, because I think when you have this conversation, Kmart versus J.R. Smith, I think I agree with you, but I think, like, the casual audience is going to remember the J.R. Smith highlights a lot more. And that's why I figured maybe he might have came off the board and I might have been able to swoop in. But that's why I said shout out to you for getting a really good one and Kevin Martin early, because But I'm still gonna go with my boy JR. JR shows up for big games. Don't sleep.
Yeah, 100%. I like that pick too. J.R. Smith is off the board. For myself, I'm gonna go with 2 players that the streets will never forget here. These are my type of guys that I love watching growing up. Let me establish my front court. Number 1, we gotta go with one of the last true back to the basket centers. Okay. This guy was an all-star back in his day. This guy was averaging like 24 and 12 in his prime. Give me Big Al. Big Al Jefferson. This guy had like a money mid-range jumper. His post-game was one of the best in the league, but no one cared because Big Al was boring in their eyes. Give me some Dwight Howard. Give me some DeAndre Jordan. But Big Al will school them as well. Give me Big Al at my center position. And then at my power forward position, he's far from boring. This man was an absolute highlight reel back in his day. Solid defender. Don't forget about his Clippers days. I promise you, it'll be for the best. Him and the Rockets as well. But give me prime Josh Smith, man. One of the most fun fours in the league, and this guy could jump out of the building. So give me Josh Smith there. Solid defender. I think he'll round up my team very nicely.
Man, those are really good picks.
And low key, elite shot blocker back in his day too.
True. Josh Smith was a sleeper. He was one of those guys that he came out the gate swinging with the Hawks, like swinging. All right, so we're going to be a little small, and this is going to be a little interesting to make him a lead decision maker. I'm going to put J.R. Smith at my 1. I need somebody to contain Kevin Martin, because like I said beforehand, if you know, you know. So let me put at my 2, I'm going to go ahead and grab my boy Tony Allen to go ahead and put the clamps on Kevin Martin. I don't know if it's going to work, but if I had to pick anybody to go out there and really put work in, I'm going to go with the guy who Kobe Bryant said might have been the best on-ball defender against him during his time in the league. Give me Tony Allen, arguably one of the best perimeter defensive players in all of NBA history. And then this last pick, I'm going to be honest, TV, this last pick is nasty because J.R. Smith being at point guard is already a little weird, but I can't
Yeah.
put Tony Allen at the 3 because that also ain't lining up. So now we got to find ourselves a really solid player to kind of even things out. And I'm going to be honest, I don't see a lot of great names, but I'm going to go with the one guy who I just think can hold it down. Give me Trevor Ariza, man.
Honestly, that you might think that that's like a consolation pick. He was solid his entire career.
He definitely is. He's a staple knockdown 3-point shooter. I think if my starting lineup wasn't so small backcourt wise, there's a handful of guys. We'll bring them up in terms of the honorable mention guys, but there's a couple of guys where if J.R. Smith wasn't my initial pick, this is where the Kevin Martin block really worked out in your favor. Yeah. If J.R. Smith wasn't my initial pick, the point guard area would probably be a lot different for me because this draft does have some interesting guys at that spot.
Yeah. No, but honestly, like Trevor Ariza, he was like definitely like one of those guys I wanted on my team. He was just like a perfect 3D guy, can fit into any lineup. I think that's a fantastic final selection. But for my last one, I'm going to have to go with just someone who's just been reliable his whole career. I can't believe you missed the opportunity to reunite him with Dwight Howard.
I know.
Which would have been like absolutely perfect for you guys because you have that built-in chemistry already. So I'm just going to take him here. Give me Jameer Nelson. This guy was like... Sure, this guy was like one of the shortest guys. I mean, they said he's 6 foot. I promise you, he wasn't 6 foot. Like he seemed like a lot smaller, but he's just a solid decision maker. Can knock down the 3, sneaky quick for someone that thick. So he's just like a solid point guard, and I think he's just going to be able to distribute to the guys on my roster. Find open for 3, Kevin Martin. Throw lobs to Josh Smith and just feed it down low to Al Jefferson. So give me Jameer Nelson to round out my team.
Yeah, man, he was definitely one of the ones. And we got to go through a handful of the honorable mention guys that show up. Jameer Nelson was like the first person that came to mind.
I was going to say real quick, Jay, you're a fake Bulls fan. I can't believe you left your main man on the board. You left your main man, Ben Gordon, on the board.
I know, bro. He was the next person I was just about to say. Ben Gordon comes up here. Sean Livingston comes up here. Devin Harris, if you know, Nets Devin Harris was a demon.
Like, one-time All-Star. By the way, he was an All-Star before. He was solid, especially at those Nets days. He was really good.
Yeah, I was gonna say Nets Devin Harris. That's probably the one you got to really zero in on. That was like early career stuff. Like you said, one-time All-Star. That was to get picked up. That was like a sleeper. I think he could have easily been another interesting selection. The J.R. Smith thing, as much as I love J.R., I think in terms of the structure, because there's a lot of small guards in this pickup, in this overall draft. So getting Tony Allen was big for defensive purposes, but I think in terms of really running my team, if I could switch J.R. Smith out, I think Devin Harris actually would have been the pick. That's one thing I will say in 2020 hindsight. But Devin Harris, Ben Gordon, shout out to Sean Livingston. Obviously you ended up taking Jameer, so there's that. Those are probably like the main guys that come up as like, dang, I didn't get to draft them.
Yeah, I mean,
this is a decent
players.
draft. Let's be honest. Like
from
role
players.
Role player wise, there's a lot of good guys.
Yeah, like Udre, but Beno Udre, he's been in the league for a long time. Sasha Vujacic, Anderson Varejao sneaking there in the first pick of the second round. Just a lot of like solid role players on this team, and of course you got some of the top guys there with Dwight Howard and like some other All-Stars there as well. But yeah, Jay, before we move on to the quiz, let the people know what team you have lined up.
Yeah, so for my 2004 NBA draft selection, starting 5, it's a little janky, but here we go. J.R. Smith at the 1, Tony Allen at the 2, Trevor Ariza is going to be my 3, Luol Deng is going to be the 4, and then rounding out the lineup at the 5 is Dwight Howard.
That defense is nasty. Holy shit.
Hey, man, we're going to have to go. We're going to have to guard, man. We're going to have to guard.
Yeah. My lineup I have for the 2004 draft, we have Jameer Nelson at running the 1. We have Kmart running the 2, Kevin Martin. At the 3, we have Andre Iguodala. We have at the 4, Josh Smith. And at the 5, Big Al Jefferson manning down the 4. Solid team. I think solid teams for both of us. Not as bad as like 2000, like was it year 2000, year 2001. I think there's like a more solid draft,
Yeah.
um, for sure. But let us know down below what you guys think. Who had the better draft, myself or Jay? Let us know down below. Jay, we are now to the final segment of the show, and it's time for the NBA quiz. And Jay, last week I brought back the back to back between me and yourself. I'm bringing back another type of quiz that we haven't done in a while, and it is guess the player by teams that they played for. We have a new
Ooh.
bunch of guys here, no theme to it, just current guys that you might not be thinking about, but we're gonna be going through their teams from least notable to most notable and see if you're able to guess them out. I'm gonna have three guys here to go for you, and let's see if you're gonna be able to name them. So
Gotcha.
we're going to go with the first player over here. The first thing I'm going to say for him is the Cleveland Cavaliers.
This is least notable.
Yes.
And you said current.
Current players. These are all players that are currently playing in the league.
Okay, no recent retire or anything like
No,
that.
no
Okay, just want to make sure I'm keeping out. Just want to make sure
I'll
I'm
tell you,
keeping a
all these
lookout.
guys are on an NBA roster.
Okay, cool. The first guy I'm gonna go with is Jay Crowder.
It is not Jay Crowder. Next team, we're going to go with the Sacramento Kings. So we're going to give you 5 teams. I'm giving you 5 teams after all this.
The Sacramento Kings. Interesting. Cleveland was first though. Dang. Okay, so the first person I was thinking of is definitely not him. Dang. Okay, Cleveland and
So remember, it's least notable to most
Sacramento.
notable. So it's going to get like more clear as the teams go on.
Yeah, I just don't think this guy's most. I don't think this guy's second least notable team is Cleveland though. That's my thing.
Yeah.
Or maybe it is. Is this JaVale McGee?
It is not JaVale McGee.
Okay. I don't know if he played on Cleveland or not in the first place, but I don't know.
Yeah, I think that he also is a card member of the Sacramento Kings. So yeah,
Oh
very
yeah.
yeah, okay. Next team, we're gonna go with the New York Knicks.
What the heck? The Knicks, Cleveland. What the heck? The Knicks, Cleveland, and Sacramento. Is this Dante DiVincenzo?
It is not Dante DiVincenzo.
Well, I guess he didn't play for
Yeah,
Cleveland. Dang,
yeah.
yeah.
It's all good. It's all good. It's all good. Next team I'm
Yeah.
gonna give you is the Utah Jazz. So this is the this is the second to last team. So that means this is like one of his more notable teams, the Utah Jazz.
Whoa. The What the Jesus Christ. Oh man. Okay, what are the teams again?
We have the Cleveland Cavaliers. We have the Sacramento Kings. So I'm telling you they're in order: Cavs,
Yeah.
Kings, the New York Knicks, the Utah Jazz.
Wow. What the heck? I'm trying to sorry.
Yeah, it's okay.
Cavs. Oh my god. Cavs, Knicks. I have no clue who this is. Okay, I'm going out on a limb.
Yeah,
Nah, I don't even know though. The Knicks. Is this like Alec Burks or something?
it is Alec Burks.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
it is.
don't even know how to like quantify this one. I'm gonna be honest. I'm just starting to think of like people who I know were on the Knicks, and I just really zeroed in on that.
Yeah. So it is Alec Burks. The last team I was gonna say was the Detroit Pistons, who he currently plays for.
Oh, okay. I would have 100% got it at that point.
Yeah. So yeah, the Detroit Pistons. Alec Burks is the guy here. Just basically a role player. He's been actually solid this year. He probably would be better off on another team, but
Yeah.
yeah, freaking tank commander for the Detroit Pistons. Next guy,
Alec Burks. Wow, no pressure. That's one that I don't even know how to like.
Yeah,
Anyway,
it's tough.
that's a
All right.
pool. That's a pool, guys. That's a pool.
All right. Next guy. First team I'm going to give you the Portland Trailblazers.
Ooh. Wesley Matthews.
It is not Wesley Matthews.
I feel like that's a little low for him, but I still
Yeah.
figured I'd pull it because he's been around the league now as of late.
Yeah, for sure. Next team, the Detroit Pistons.
Oh Jesus, oh my God. Um, Here's like a really random one. Harry Giles.
It is not Harry Giles.
I'm almost surprised. As much bigs as Detroit has taken, I'm going to be honest. I'm kind of surprised.
Yep. That's a crazy pull. Next up, we have the Los Angeles Clippers.
Oh my gosh. Okay, wait, name the three teams again.
I have the Trailblazers, the Pistons, and the Los Angeles Clippers. I probably I just realized I probably I could have fixed this order a bit better. No, not the order I have right now, but I missed out on a team that I probably should be including in this, but I'm not including.
Okay.
I'll give you an extra team too, just in case, just because I feel like I should have included this team. But yeah, we'll do that after.
Okay. Because Norm's only played with LA and the Raptors, so it's not Norm.
He's also played with the Trailblazers.
Well, he did play with the Blazers, but I don't think he played with the Pistons. I do not think he. Listen. Let me guess Norm, but I don't think it's Norm.
It is not Norm Powell.
Yeah.
Next team, the Charlotte Hornets.
Oh, you're killing me, Smalls. This is tough. What the heck? Is this Ish Smith?
It is not Ish Smith. Honestly, if I pick Ish Smith, I don't know which teams to choose as his most
No, true. No, fair. No, fair. That's a fair point.
I would have no idea how to navigate that.
Yo, that's a fair point.
I'll give you five. I'll give you one more team, but if you need an extra one, I'll give you one more. Okay. Next up, his most notable team, the Denver Nuggets.
His most notable team is it? Okay, name the four teams out for me one more time. My apologies.
So we have the Trailblazers, we have the Detroit Pistons, the Clippers, the Hornets, and the Denver Nuggets.
Man, that Hornets one, that's the part that's really sending me right now. The Hornets is really sending me right now because I cannot think. Oh my gosh.
As the extra hint for you, I will say that he was drafted by the Brooklyn Nets.
Dang. I don't know if that made that easier or harder. Drafted by the Nets. It's like, how much Nets basketball do I know from a draft perspective? They haven't had their drafts for God knows how long.
Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if this was their last first round pick that they had before they traded everything.
Yeah, really. Dang, I'm trying to think.
He's a big. I will say he's a big.
Okay, that helps. But I'm just thinking wow, that Charlotte thing is really
and he currently plays for the Clippers.
Wait,
he's currently on the Clippers. He's currently on the Clippers.
Oh crap. Okay, do I remember the Clippers stuff?
It's a Clipper big, basically.
Clipper big. This is nuts. Cause it's not Zoo. So it's you know what I mean? It's not Zoo. So who is it? He was drafted by the Nets. Who the heck is this?
He's currently starting for them. He's been starting because Zoo has been injured, so he's been starting for them like a lot as
Oh
of.
God. Okay. I just realized how nasty this was, and it's worse because of the fact that like the team that pissing me off, the Charlotte Hornets, is the reason why this makes sense. Is this Mason?
It's Mason Plumlee. Yeah,
Oh my gosh.
Mason
Yeah.
Plumlee.
You said play
Yeah,
for the Clippers, and I had to go down my list of Clipper bigs, and it wasn't clicking for me because they don't play. They play five out a lot more now because
yeah,
Ivica Zubac has been injured.
yeah,
But yeah, I forgot that Mason Plumlee thought he was like the second coming of Nikola Jokic in his time
yeah,
in Charlotte, and it was some
yeah.
of the nastiest, great highlights you'll ever watch in your life. It's actually kind of
Yes, hundred
nuts.
percent. I love it. I absolutely love it. I am so. I love dude. I love Mason Plumlee highlights. It makes me think like he's a top five big in basketball.
No, for
Um,
real.
Final guy. This is the final guy we're gonna do.
Okay,
First up, the Oklahoma City Thunder.
this is his least notable team.
Yes.
Hmm. Jeremy Grant.
Not Jeremy Grant. Next team, the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Huh. So OKC and the T Wolves. Okay. We gotta think. How many people, and this is also current, how many people have played on both of those teams? That's current too. I think is probably the most important thing, right? Because I can think of a
Yes.
handful of guys who play. Like, ironically enough, a guy that came up in our draft, Kevin Martin, played for both teams, but like he's
Yes.
not an option in this situation.
Yeah. Hmm.
I think I know who it is. We're not gonna get to the team that he plays if I'm right though.
Yeah.
I think I know who this is. Shout out to my boy. He just got back. This is Taj, isn't it?
Yes.
Shout out to my boy. Yeah. I was
Taj
gonna say I just
Gibson.
saw this news recently that he's back with the Knicks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shout out
Oh,
to my
dang.
dog,
That's
man.
the that's literally the reason why I have him on this. He's on a 10-day contract with the Knicks again. He's back.
Shout out to my dog, man. I just seen the news for that recently. I was putting it together. I'm like, yo, what? I'm sitting there thinking in my mind, like, those two teams are so weird, but who there's not too many players where
Yeah.
you think like those two. And I was thinking like, who are even the most recent guys to be on both of those teams? You will not, unless you're like a sick Bulls fan like me,
Yeah.
you will not even remember that somehow Taj Gibson was on the OKC Thunder for like a handful of a season.
No, literally, my biggest memory from that season is when he hit that 3/4 shot from like.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember that so clearly in my head when I saw it happen. Oh my
Oh my
gosh.
god.
But yeah, I was gonna go with that. I was gonna go with the Wizards next. Then I was gonna go with the Knicks, and then I was gonna go with the Chicago Bulls.
I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm really glad I got it early because I think if you had said the Wizards,
That would have thrown you off.
I ain't gonna lie, that would have threw me off the trail. I'm not gonna hold you. The Wizards stint. I mean, he was there for a little minute,
He was there for the whole season,
actually.
I think. Yeah, he was there for the whole
Yeah.
season. Yeah.
He was there for a little minute. He was over there taking Gafford minutes, if I'm not mistaken, which is ridiculous to say out
Yeah.
loud, but
Yes.
whatever. But yeah, I think that would have threw me off the trail. So I'm glad I got that one early. It's not too
Yeah.
many players that have played on both of those teams though.
Yeah, for
So I
sure.
mean that helped a little bit. Shout out to my boy Taj though. Just got back in time for the quiz.
This is his timeline for the season, by the way. Signs a 10-day contract with the Knicks, gets signed for the remainder of the season. After the OG Anunoby trade, he gets released, and now is on his second 10-day contract of the season. Like, Thibodeau cannot let go of this man. Thibodeau will never, ever let go of this man.
Hey man, all I gotta say is if you know, you know, Tony Snell is looking to finally reach the 10-year veteran minimum that allows him to be able to get player benefits after retirement. Somebody bring my boy Tony Snell on the team.
Tibbs, reunite the Bulls, man.
Come on,
Reunite
man.
the
If
Bulls.
there's anybody you can play for 48 minutes and get zero stats, but definitely be a presence, is Tony Snell, man. Come on, man. Put my boy on a roster. Make sure he can feed his kids, man. I think his kids have some like medical issues and stuff like
Yes,
that
yes.
going
They have
on.
like a lifelong disability. They have a lifelong like immune disease or something like that. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
But
it's something
look out for the
actually
boy.
pretty.
Look out for him. Look out for
Yeah,
him.
I was gonna say it's actually something pretty serious. I know I'm being funny about his playing time and stuff like that, but somebody sign that man. Give that man a little mini contract so that he can go ahead and reach his 10-year veteran status, so that he can get taken care of post career. Man, he's got some kids that are really going through some tough times and stuff. And Tony Snell, we joke on the all zero stats and stuff like that, but I mean, look, he's been in a couple of NBA rotations. Get that man a job. It's bigger than basketball at that point.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's hard to stay in the NBA for 10 years, so you must be doing something right if you're Tony Snell. So the fact that he's like almost there, look out for the man, get him his contract ASAP. But yeah, let us know down below what other quizzes you want us to see us do. We'll take any suggestions. You can leave it in this comment section here, DM us, all that good stuff. Jay, we have reached another end of another fantastic episode. Thank you guys for watching. What do you tell these beautiful people before we sign out?
Hey man, me and TV trying to do some mental gymnastics around the NBA trade deadline. We have a couple of different ways that this might end up going. Me and TV have a pretty jam-packed week next week in terms of not just the trade deadline.
That's an understatement. That's an understatement.
No, TV's not kidding. I mean, we'd love to share with you kind of some of the other extracurriculars. You'll have to check out the vlogs for that. But let me just say, TV's coming to a really fun experience. He sounds like he's gonna really have a good time next week. Shout out to the Super Bowl, by the way, too. So don't sleep. It's gonna be a lot going on next week. But we're gonna figure out and be able to do the NBA trade deadline the best way that we can. It should be really exciting. I'm hoping that there's as much player movement as we expect with so many interesting names on the trade block. This is the meat and potatoes of the season right here, man. Like after the trade deadline, that's when things kind of reshake up. There's no such thing as dog days in the league anymore, right? There's too many rumors. There's too much at stake. The push for the NBA playoffs, the push for the NBA play-in tournament. There's too much at stake following the NBA trade deadline. So there's no such thing as dog days in the league, and that means we're going to be absolutely tapped in. Trade deadline. All-Star weekend, and then the push to the playoffs, man. We are locked and loaded, and it's going to be a really good time.
Yeah, 100%. And you're going to be able to follow all of that on our individual accounts at TV on Basketball, not the Ruti Jumper and all that, and of course the Hit Your Free Throws page. I'm telling you, a lot more vlogs are coming out. There's going to be a lot of them coming that weekend, and I'm going to be previewing you guys because I'll just say it real quick. 3 games in 4 nights. You think that's an NBA term? Nope, this is a TV term that weekend. So 3 games in 4 nights. So you're going to see a lot of Raptor vlogs going up that weekend. So it's going to be really fun for myself, but also very draining. So we'll try to figure out how to fit the whole trade deadline special into that. But yeah, that's for next week. Thank you guys for watching today's episode. Remember to show love on the TikTok, Instagram for the daily content. Subscribe, like for the YouTube, support any way possible on the podcast networks, and of course follow our individual pages as well. This is the end of today's episode. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you all have a fantastic day. Take it easy, guys. Peace.